go. It's Saturday, it's the weekend, time to party. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Join the fun with Mac, Filippo, Lark, Joelle, Martha, Thurman, and Zion. You can bring your friends. Let's get to know each other. Never share and connect. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Join the community. Share about your day, your business, or a fun fact. It's a chance to never share and connect. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat. Social Saturday chat.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another Social Saturday chat. That was the intro that I created last night when, let's say, I was a little bit inebriated. So the chorus is just very simple, but we wanted to provide a little bit of enthusiasm this morning. So welcome, everyone, and hello to my wonderful co-hosts, Joel, Mac, and Martha. The other co-host, Thurman, can't be here today, and Zion is busy as well. And Lark is also taking care of some personal things. She might pop in. But today is November 15th, 2025, and we are here to talk about how storytelling in marketing and your personal branding can help. A lot of times, storytelling is something that some people have natural skills and talents for, and other times, people end up having challenges telling stories. And so, we're here today to hopefully share a few tips, tell some of our stories, and hear some of your stories, as I'm sure many of you have. Want to welcome my wonderful friend Bill Rochelle, William Rochelle, and of course, my partner in crime, Melissa Houston, who we will be doing a show tomorrow, Careers, Chaos, and Coaching, around budgeting for the holidays and some great tips, deals, and tools for you to help you budget. Because I don't know about you all, but I'm tired of overspending in the holidays. It's great to see our master connector, Meryl Cass, in the room. Stephen Eng, our LinkedIn librarian. I have not seen you in a while, my friend. It is wonderful to see you. Tell us what you're up to. Sean, great to see you as well. Leanna, thank you for joining. And Robert Carr. So feel free to go ahead and share the room with your network. Let them know that we're going on live, especially if they have a business, if they're in a situation where they want to be able to tell their story, whether it's through written form, content, verbally. There's so many different ways, and how it will benefit your company, your personal brand, and overall your goals. But let's go ahead and do some introductions because we got a great team here today, and it's always wonderful to see everyone together. And everyone here has a different background, different experience to bring so much value to today. So let's go around the room and start off with Martha to do some introductions and initial thoughts about this topic, and maybe either a fun fact or what you're doing today. Over to you, Martha.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. It's great to see everyone in the chat. Um, it's actually raining here today in California. So I have my Christmas tree up and running, and Teddy's sitting right next to me, wrapped up, just cozy. um, who am I? I am a human being who loves working with unhoused members in the community. That's my jam. Um, Connect Impact Hub, I am the founder. Please check us out. Come on over and connect with me if you'd like to learn a little bit more. And storytelling is definitely part of what I do. I do share things through my profile about what I do out in the field. But it's based on real stories, and I just recently came across some great things. Well, I'm going to pass it over before I start going off to Joel.
Hello, everybody. Matthew could have gone off before he came to me, although my patient is currently asleep, so he's all drugged up at the moment, ready to just recovering. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joel. I am a musician, also run my own company in empowering other people who are on the spectrum and who are not on the neurodiverse spectrum, indeed, to come together and really communicate in more in a way they choose to what works best for them. So that could be music, that could be other things, but I'm musical background, technology background, and I didn't know this apparently, but I'm also I'm also a vet apparently because I've been doing that, dealing with him all since Monday. So um, over to Max before I start rambling on, and looking forward to conversation.
Well, welcome everybody to another incredible Saturday, social Saturday chat. Thanks, Felipe, for running this on your profile. A topic that I know you are going to get quite stuck into and suggestions. I can't even speak today. Suggested by you. I was thinking of that schedule, and I was trying to adapt that to suggested. But yeah, this is not the place all the time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mac Laupscher. I'm a networking and LinkedIn strategist, and I effectively help people really reverse engineer the outcomes that they're looking for themselves or their businesses, and that changes from time to time. But I'm really looking forward to today's topic because it's something that not only have we as co-hosts been talking about, but it's something that I see on a regular basis where people get this so wrong. And, I see it all the time, and I'm sure you do. And if you do, please share in the comments where people post, continuously these type of posts that basically say, buy my stuff, as opposed to why you should buy their stuff and using the opportunity to use, storytelling effectively. And hopefully we'll go through some good examples and structures that will work for you as well. And if you know some great storytellers, please drop in the comments. Let us know who they are so that we can also go and support and follow them and check them out and learn ourselves, because we're always learning. Anyway, with that said, Felipe, back to you, sir.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you everyone for joining us. We have some people who joined us. It's great to see Nicole, who is a publisher. So if you have a story to tell, she might be helping you to publish it. You never know. And Annie Osung, another publisher out there who's a great storyteller. And then LinkedIn user from San Diego. I can't see who you are right now. I'm sure in the chat we can tell. But feel free to let us know who you are. And then we actually have a true storyteller, Jay Pasqua, who really part of his brand is storytelling. So Jay, we hope that you join us up here later on. And then of course David Pushkin, who, if there's a story to tell, I want to hear his voice tell the story, because he's got the radio voice that we all know and love. All right, so let's get started here, because look, the reality is storytelling is something that can benefit all of us. Whether you're talking to your children, you're talking to somebody that you want to keep their interest, to you're making a deal, to you're promoting your company or product or your personal brand. Storytelling is powerful. I had a financial person say, well, how can we fundraise when people are going to give money to, hospitals and children and funding for research for illnesses that, people find priority? I said, everyone has different priorities. Those are definitely high priorities on most people's list, but it's because they tell a story that touches their heart. Okay. And if you're talking about children, guess what? You're going to resonate with people who have children. more than people who don't have children. It's just a fact. Now, the reality is that it's up to you. Some people are shy about telling a story. Some people feel like it's very vulnerable to share a story. And that's where you got to decide how much, whether it's your business or yourself, you got to figure out what you're comfortable with. So I'm going to do something here. Surprising enough, I'm going to share Felipe's 5. Here are 5 things that, as you are curtailing your story, here are 5 things that are crucial to the success of it being a good story. And so from there, we're going to give examples and share and invite you all up. So let's dive right in. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. I'm sorry, that was the wonderful friend Spam calling me. He just calls all the time. I don't know. It says, Spam, his last name is Risk. Just really annoying when he calls. Anyways, so welcome real quick to Christy Williams. All right, so we are going to go ahead. Oh, Annette Gomez, thank you for coming. All right, can you all still hear me okay? Did y'all freeze or did I? Oh, crap.
We can hear you.
You're still good, still good. And he has left the building. Felipe will be right back. And there he is.
All right.
Felipe, welcome back.
Sorry, my friend Spam Risk called and he's trying to chat, but he calls all the time. I don't know. Anyways, all right. I apologize for that. I think the last thing I was saying was before I get started, I just want to welcome Annette Gomez, Christy Williams, and Richard. Oh, Richard Lopez, my amigo. You're your LinkedIn user, so thank you for sharing that. Again, we have some amazing people in this room that definitely, if you're not following, follow them. All right. So here are Felipe's 5 that I'm going to share around things you can do to help you curtail your story. There are 5 fundamental things that really your story should have so that it can be the most effective. And then we're going to talk about some stories that we have, share some examples, and invite you up on stage to share your examples. All right. So we will be putting the link. Actually, if any of you all could put the link in the comments for them so that they know to come up in a little bit. All right. So here are Felipe's 5 that I'm going to share with you real quick. Okay. So the first thing are you got to figure out what your core values, brand pillars, and mission are. Okay. They don't necessarily have to have all 3. They kind of overlap, but you have to figure out what your brand pillars are or your core values are, or just your overall mission, because that's the part that is really going to be the foundation of your story and making sure that you come across passionate when you tell it. If it does not trigger your core values or your brand or your mission, when you tell it, you're not going to have the passion and the excitement that you should when you tell a story. So it's important to make sure that you have really defined these things and made them clear to you in everything that you do. It's 1 or 2 sentences that you can write down that really can define your brand or mission or your 4 pillars. It is what you stand for. It's the key messages or values. So think about that. Mine are workplace wellness, family, human resources and recruitment, and career growth. Those are my 4 pillars that everything I do touches on one of those 4. And so those are the things that we have to understand, that a lot that we do should touch on your 4 pillars. Now, the next one here is your audience. You got to figure out who is your audience? What kind of audience? Where is your audience? When's the best time to talk to your audience? And why should your audience listen to you? These are things that you got to remember. If you are storytelling for your own benefit, it may not resonate with everyone else. You've really got to think about the stories you're telling. Are they going to resonate with other people? If you live in the middle of nowhere and you deal with very unique animals that no one ever sees, and you're telling a story about, isn't it amazing when this animal does this out in the middle of nowhere? People might think it's beautiful pictures, but they may not resonate with that if it's just a rare story that they don't encounter a lot. So you got to make sure that your audience, you know who they are, you know what they're looking for, where they're at, when to talk to them, and know that what's their why. All right, the next part here. What's the issue? What's the conflict, the challenge, or in many cases, the villain of the story? Is it what's the problem that you're trying to solve that's providing conflict or challenge? I say villain. I don't want you all to focus on villain. That was more just for fun there. But if you're thinking about a good movie telling a story, there's usually a good villain in there that people are looking to stop. Well, in storytelling, what's that challenge? What's that conflict that you're looking to solve? Because that's going to resonate with people like, oh gosh, when my kids start screaming in the grocery store, I don't know what to do. So I'm curious about what you did. Or, oh my gosh, my car broke down and I was on the way to work and I don't know anything about car mechanics and this is what was going to happen. Right there, those two stories provide conflict, some kind of, oh my gosh, there's something going to happen. Is someone in danger? Are they going to be okay? So you got to have that conflict. And I'm not saying make it up. It's just make sure that you share that part of this is the part that scared me. I'll share very briefly. I know I talked about my children's book that I wrote, but there's one page in the children's book that I purposely put in. One of the animals in the backyard had two beady red eyes, and you first saw them in the bushes. And then the next page, they came out of the bushes, and it was a raccoon, a friendly raccoon. So many of the children I've talked to say, "Oh, I get scary when the beady red eyes come. That's a very scary part for me." And it was just interesting that I didn't intend it to be as scary, but it served its purpose. So you gotta figure out what is the thing that people need to overcome in that story. All right, and then guess what? What's the resolution? What was the transformation? What was the overall solution that helped you get out of that sticky situation or resolve that problem or that conflict? Was it the fact that you realized, oh, I was mistaken and they actually were friendly? Or, oh, there was a wonderful young gentleman that walked by that knew about cars and they were able to fix it for me. And they were so friendly. I bought them lunch. And then we found out that our kids went to the same school and it was amazing. Again, I'm just throwing out things off the top of my head, but what was the resolution? How did you get out of that situation? What was the solution to that conflict? Because that's important. You can't leave that out. And then the last part, the call to action or invitation to respond and engage. This is the part of the story that bring them into it, saying, and that's, at the end, you finish up saying, and that's what happened. And, have you ever experienced anything like that? Or have your kids ever done that? Or, oh my gosh, I don't know if you've ever had your car break down like that, but, what are your thoughts? What would you do? And that question, what would you do? Or have you ever had your car break down? It's just a simple thing. So in the chat, do me a favor. For those of you listening right now, tell me, have you ever had your car break down? Just put a yes in the comments. Just a Y or a yes in the comments. If you've ever had your car break down at any point in your life, I'm curious. Now, I did put all 5 here. Just a reminder, have a core message, know your audience, have conflict and challenge, have a resolution or transformation, and a call to action. Every story should have these components, okay? Now, let's go back to us here and talk about, let me get back to this page here. All right, so I shared a lot there. I want to give my co-host a chance to share their insight, their experience, their thoughts about what I shared, because here's the thing. I mentioned my children's book earlier, okay? And when I thought about all those things, the who were my audience were parents and children. My what was to share a story from my daughter's childhood that I thought was a funny story and cute, and I thought people would resonate with it. The why, to have something that my future grandkids can read and other kids can read and share. So I went through all those steps, and then I was able to put that into actual paper and publish it and have it out there. Your story can be a verbal story. Your story can end up in a book. Your story could end up being a video. It's all up to you what you're comfortable with. We're not telling you how to do it, but it is something that telling a good story is important. And I'll end with this before I pass it on to everyone else real quick, is I had a friend who loved to tell stories. She She was so passionate about telling stories. But there is such a thing as too much passion. We called her, let me come up with a different name. We called her Jane Tell a Short Story Long Doe. Because she couldn't tell a story without it being at least 25 minutes. So you got to make sure that you don't lose your audience. It's kind of like when you write a post, too long, didn't read. Sorry, you know. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to my friend Mac, share his thoughts. I know that I think we had David Pushkin join us on stage as well. So David, we'll get right with you in a minute. But let's go to our co-host Mac, and then pass it around to see what everyone else's thoughts are.
Well, firstly, I thought you heard about me having a problem with my car breaking down this week.
No, I honestly really did not. I had no idea.
In my infinite wisdom, I arrived for a meeting, and I was so excited about the meeting that when I got out of the car, I forgot to even check that the lights had gone off, and that I'd switched the little light inside on the top of the car where you can kind of look down. So the one by the rearview mirror. So I'd been playing with things just before I got out of the car, and the dash cam and all those kind of things. And I was like pressing buttons, and then I was like, oh, look at the time, gotta go. And I closed the car, locked it, ran off, came back. And because I'd been there for a while at the meeting, I got back in the car and I was like, click, 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 click. And I was like, oh, you are kidding me.
Well, you know what?
Anyway,
real quick, along those lines, I just want to share something real quick. So a number of you said yes, like I want to say like 8 or 9 of you said yes, about maybe 10 of you about a car breaking down. When you do your call to action, don't get too specific. Because right now, Mac had a great story he just told, very short. But if I said, hey, give me a yes if you ever had left your lights on in the car when you're rushing and came back and the battery died, much fewer of you would have responded yes. Much fewer of you would have resonated and engaged. So you got to make those questions, call to actions, really broad so that it can capture enough people to engage. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I love that story, but I wanted to make sure that if you use call to action, you didn't say specifically, did A, B, and C happen exactly the way it happened to me? It could be like, hey, did your car battery ever die? That's a different thing. So back to you. Sorry.
Yeah. So, it just reminds me, because the call to action that you put out there, straight away I could resonate, and it's something that has happened now. But this is something that this last week specifically, I've spoken to so many people when it comes to, they say, well, I'm not sure like what to post on LinkedIn, and you can only make so many ads. And then it's like that. And straight away I'm sitting there going, like, red flags. Like, all you want to do is just post ad, like, buy my stuff is what I call it. In guys, then like a carousel post about my 5 different services or my 5 different and it's all about me. And people's favorite subject is not you, it's themselves. And so when it comes to the whole storytelling thing, when you really get good at this and you start getting into the process, there is unbelievable amounts of content, whether it comes from your experience or whether it comes from your customer's experience or whether it comes from experts in your field and their stories. There's so many ways to put this across. So when it comes to stories, Felipe has asked about has your car ever broken down? But think about, like, is there a series that you love watching? And the reason they've got you hooked is because of the framework, or because of the story framework. So please share in the comments, like, what's your favorite series and why? Or what's your favorite author and the books that they write and why? If I have to think about the best storytellers, and I'm going to wrap up with this and pass it back to you, Felipe, is, if you think about Disney, like, Disney are like the incredible storytellers, and that's because they use a very kind of simple structure. It's that, like, whole once upon a time thing. So your world before the change. And then they go into that, like, everyday thing, the routine, the problem building, and then the one day with the trigger and the turning point, and then it's because of that the journey and actions that take place, and then they go until finally the results and the breakthrough, and then ever since then, or the happily ever after, the ongoing benefit and the lesson. So think about, and there's so many different story structures, but if you just think about the whole Disney experience, or there's another one called the hero's journey, think about just that little process and then fill in the blanks. And if you want me to send that to you or drop it into the comments, just comment Disney story and I'll send you the breakdown.
Well, add them in the comments either way. I think that's a great thing to add. And I think what you showed was brilliant. And it's interesting, when you mention Disney, think about it. You think, oh, Disney resonates with children, and there's a lot of children in the world. But hold up. Disney resonates with parents also. Not only just because, oh, it's something for the children. How many of you watched a Disney movie and been like, oh, there's an underlying funny moment that only parents caught? Disney's very smart about that. They intentionally create stories that adults can resonate with a little bit and kids can resonate with a lot. So I think that's important. And sharing that personal thing, I mean, think about it. I wrote a letter about a lost letter I found for my father 25 years ago. That's a very specific thing. But my audience were children and parents. That's a big audience. My audience wasn't people who lost letters from their parents. So you got to think about that. So real quick, I want to go to Martha and Joel before we go to David and Richard. Anything you wanted to add or share about storytelling?
I tell mine every single day I open my mouth, apparently, because people just want to know what the hell my medical condition is, rather, whenever they hear about it. So instead of having a family conversation, hello and how are you, and this is who I am, it turned into about a 4-hour discussion and debate on why my medical condition is such a ridiculous name. So that's just
But you know what's great about Joel is that when you talk, I mean, people talk about medical conditions. Sometimes they feel like, oh, it's sad. You have an inspiring story you share, and you share a lot of difficult, challenging things. But you don't say it in a way that makes people feel uncomfortable. You say it in a way that creates curiosity. Like, wait, I don't. How is that happening? Help me understand more. And I think that's important for people to understand. Is you don't want to scare people away. You want to get them to be curious and ask questions. So I think it's brilliant how you do that, Martha.
Yeah, that was a great share, guys. Joel. For me, I mean, I do storytelling with my son. He's 15, and so we're consistently on the way to school. We're talking, and my son's like, "Mom, you're turning this into a long story again," Not on purpose, but I get real passionate, And even when I speak with my friends, I get real passionate, and sometimes I do make people uncomfortable, and not purposely. It's just some of the conversations that I'll gear towards are heavy, and that's just my personality. So I guess it depends on the person.
Well, I know. Sure, your son definitely loves stories as much as my kids love my stories because I got the same response from them as you did. But here's the thing: the work that you do with the unhoused, the stories that you share about the work you do, creates a ripple effect. I can't walk by someone that's unhoused without thinking about the work that you do and think about what can I do. And that's a powerful thing that you have, is the ability to inspire people through your storytelling to take action. And that's almost without a call to action. It's just by leading by example, which is amazing. All right, well, let's go to our wonderful guest who've been patiently waiting, David Pushkin, our radio LinkedIn voice. Over to you, my friend. Your thoughts or questions about this topic?
Well, I'm happy Saturday. I've just had an encouraging nap, so I'm refreshed. Storytelling's a big thing. Like it is, or your five was really encouraging. And there's a lot of really good storytellers. Everybody in social Saturday chat. There's a couple of people in the crowd. Nicole's, Innie, Jay, my good friend Hedden, who's here today. It's all about those encouraging stories and telling things and like you said, the call to action is so important. and it's got to resonate with you. You know, I recently, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to have a connection. You know, I was speaking to somebody who was visually impaired like myself, Fern Lulham, who is a broadcaster, and it really resonated with me because I could understand a lot of what she was going through and her humor and good things. And like I said, it's a combination, it's a mix of all things. There are times when you need to apply humor, there are times when it needs to be serious, but you need to, you need to just get the message out there, Um, Pusha T on the clips on their album talk about this. They say, two things they say. There's an L in every lesson, and make your message, and that's really important. You know, a lot of things that people have gone through is encouragement. It's inspiring. It encourages people to do more. There's a journey. You know, like you were talking about Disney stories, and you were talking about stories. Sometimes there's a beginning. You know, there may not be an end, but there'll be a middle. You know, something's happened. Somebody's gone through something. There's learning. You know, there's learning, and sometimes there's funny things. Like when Matt was talking about how his fish was blocking his Wi-Fi, which was incredibly funny. But stories are so important, and you never know what sharing your story is going to do. A lot of people play small, thinking nobody wants to hear it. But how do you know until you tell a story? You never know. All you've got to do is inspire one person, and that one person is enough. The ripple effect is so important. So stay encouraged, all, and I will yield the mic there.
Well, David, you're so right. The ripple effect is important, even if it's just one person. That one person, it meant something to them and provided value in their life. And your point about humor is so spot on, because we mentioned earlier about talking about topics that might make you feel uncomfortable. Joel is wonderful about introducing humor into his stories. Um, if we can't laugh at ourselves sometimes, I mean, look, if any of you have ever watched Melissa Houston and I on Careers Casting Coaching, we laugh at each other and ourselves quite a bit. But we're also laughing while we're telling difficult stories, because we want people to realize, hey, this topic's okay to talk about, and sometimes the things that happen, you know what, you either cry or laugh, so pick one or the other, and we choose to laugh. So I think bringing the humor in allows us to talk about it more comfortably, and it also allows your story to stick with them and resonate a little bit more. So I love that. Mac, Joel, or Mac, Joel, or Martha, any thing you wanted to share based on David's comments?
I'm just waiting to see if anybody else wants to jump in first. But one of the things I love about that, because there's so many different ways to tell a story. There's whether it be the kind of story structure or having that great hook, but for David, he's like one of those guys who could read I don't know, well, I was going to say telephone book, and then I was sitting there thinking, well, how many people still know what the hell that is? But it's a very thick book, okay? They could read like a scientific journal, and you'd be in there waiting for the next word, because the voice has just got you straight into, okay, what's this guy saying? And you just want to hear more. I reckon David could do those, like, when you're sleeping and it's got your what do they call it, the psychological kind of affirmations and all those kind of things, and it drifts you off into sleep, and all day long. So that's really just longer than what it needed to be, but my thoughts on it.
That was too funny. Martha, Joel, anything you want to add before we move on? I'm going to take that as a no.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right. Well, let's go on to our next wonderful guest, Richard Lopez. Thank you for coming, my friend. It's great to see you as always. Have you been? And please, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, thank you so much for creating this space and for everybody's contributions to it, because I think storytelling is such an important piece. Not just, many of you that are on LinkedIn, but I think that these like stories, they give you depth. I think what Martha was saying, that there's truth in those stories. And what I do when I'm working with clients that I'm helping them with like a pitch deck or a sales deck, the why of what they do is so important, because that's what makes the sale more than the sale. Sometimes it's that connection piece, the cultural roots, their upbringing. Sometimes those stories are what really is able to connect with people. When we built Founder Fuego, we wanted to build a bilingual community, and we ended up getting people that were non-Spanish speakers from all sorts of different cultures, because they knew somebody that talked like us and they knew the story of people like us. So that created this dynamic brand through just storytelling and just telling the stories of others. So just wanted to share that little piece, because I think brand storytelling is important when not just meeting people, making sales, or even just connecting with people. There's a level of truth and authenticity that comes with just being able to tell your story. So thanks for making the space and for giving me a little time here.
Oh, Richard, thank you. 'Cause I think it being able to tell someone else's story and put the spotlight on them is wonderful. And again, you got to have the storytelling skill to be able to do that, though. But I think that's such an important thing, because so often we do make it about us. And like Max said at the very beginning, a lot of times we like to tell stories about us, but is that really what's going to resonate with other people? And I think when you focus on other people and let them tell their story and help them kind of massage that story into a story that people can understand and resonate. I work with a lot of data scientists and a lot of academics, and they do such amazing work with data to help improve health and wellness and aging and children's health. But they think what they're doing is just important work and they're working hard. They don't think about the ripple effect. Well, they do think about the ripple effect, but they don't think about the story of how the ripple effect is helping adults aging, dealing with mobility and loneliness, or kids' health and dealing with things of single parents dealing with children with health issues. These are things that they have stories, and they're starting now to realize by putting out on video on LinkedIn and sharing, hey, here's my data story of, it might have been 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 months ago, but helping people tell their story and putting a spotlight on them is sometimes so much more powerful, especially for those that are uncomfortable, because those are uncomfortable are usually the ones that don't make it about them. So I love that. Mac, Joel, Martha, anything on Richard's wonderful share?
You know, thank you for sharing, Richard. David, Gregory's up soon. I'm looking forward to hearing him speak also. Um, there was a comment that was made from Sajith Kumar. It's kind of bringing something up here. He said, everyone has a story to tell. Not everyone can, however, tell it effectively. And so, as everybody was sharing, I think about, our introverts, right? Who they do have a story to share, but it can be difficult to get that out. So can we tap into that a little bit?
No, and I think that's what part of Richard's thing was, putting a spotlight on other people's stories and helping those people that are uncomfortable, helping them
Oh,
develop.
yes. Sorry.
But you again, I want to make sure people heard that. So it is for those people that maybe they're not the ones that want to be in the spotlight, but they have a story to tell, and they're okay with someone else telling their story. Now, that's
Mhm,
something that's important to remember: is don't assume that people want their story told. Some
mhm.
people are private. You gotta respect that privacy. But if
Right.
people are trying to, it's like no one hears me. I want to share the story, but I don't have a platform, or people don't hear me. Those are the people that sometimes need the most help. And again, sometimes it's just saying, well, tell me your story, and like, well, wait, how did you do this part? Oh, that was no big deal. I just did A, B, and C, and donated a few hours of my time. Like, wait, that's a huge part of the story that people need to know. And so listening again, we have to listen to other people, stop making it about us and listen to their stories. I think it's a good life lesson, not just for storytelling in life. Listen to other people's stories, let them share what they're saying, going through, and hear them. And then if they're undervaluing something they did, lift them up on that, shine the spotlight brighter on that, let them know you've made a huge impact by doing that. Don't undervalue it because you think it's just a normal thing to do, because not everyone thinks that way. So I love this. Mac or Joel, anything before we move on to Gregory?
Joel, anything before I jump in?
No, jump away.
Okay, I'll jump away. Um, so, firstly, I want to kind of just caveat that comment earlier that both Felipe and I were talking about with regards to people's favorite subject is themselves. But don't get me wrong, every single one of you that are listening and watching this, you have life experience and a story worth telling. So just because other people's favorite subject is themselves doesn't in any way negate the fact that your story is important to tell, because somebody out there is needing that inspiration or that nudge to kind of move on to the next step. And I loved what you were saying earlier, Richard, about you started off with one thing in mind, but that had the ripple effect, and other people joined in because of. And that is so important to realize that the format of the story sometimes to get your story out there, if you're not a great speaker, then there's other ways to do it, like Felipe mentioned about having somebody else tell your story. Or if we look at I don't know if anybody's ever watched the movie Erin Brockovich, but for me, like, that was a movie about somebody else's story and an actress telling that story, but it's a real person story. And yet I bet you most people probably can't remember or don't even know who the author of the book was, or any of the other times the story was told until they watched that movie, as an example. So that story can come in so many different formats. If you're not a great speaker, put it in writing. If writing isn't your thing, put it into a storyboard, or speak to somebody else who is a great storyteller that can put that into some form of a video for you, or an image for you, or a written format. But there's so many different formats, and I'd love people to comment about what's their favorite format. Because for me, I'm a visual person. So if somebody tells a joke, for me, it's 10 times funnier, because what I've done is I've put it into some form of like weird, animated, like exaggerated format in pictures in my mind. And for other people, it's like, I don't understand how you found that funny. And I still laugh at dad jokes. Like, for me, they're the best. But it's finding the format that resonates with you. Other people are more fact orientated, more visual, analytic, want to see graphs, that kind of thing. So think about your audience. That's really important. Is who am I telling the story to, and is the way I'm doing that in the way that they are best to receive it. I'm seeing you nodding away there, Richard. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Well, my background is I do visual design piece, and I totally agree with you. And sometimes people need help telling their message as well, because they'll look at the camera like with their face on and they say, hey, I have this community. But if they show a picture of them talking to somebody and that emotion that they see, that says the story of your brand just in a feeling and emotion from seeing you in community. So sometimes they're saying things, and sometimes there's actually visibly seeing the proof of it. So I just wanted to add that. That's why I was nodding so heavily.
Well, I love that. And I think it's important that people understand that there is different types of ways people receive that. I said earlier, if it's too long, people won't read it. I want to make a caveat to that. If it's a good story, people are going to read it. And that's the thing. And that's where you have to make sure that you're not going on and on about. But if you have different parts of the story that are important, it's long. I mean, the story I told about my father in the letter, it was a letter I lost 25 years ago, found it, lost it, never read it at 25 years after he wrote it and after he passed away. There were so many different components to that story. It was a long post, but people stayed with it because there was different parts. So if you ramble about one section, not relevant. Also, again, visually written. If you're stronger written, great. But if you're animated and comfortable on video, get on video. The animation and personality attracts people. So But help those people out there that need their stories told. I think that's one thing that journalists do very well, the good journalists, let me rephrase that. And then the people that highlight and lift others up in their community, like Richard does, and Founding Fuego, right? Did I say it right? I almost said Fuego Foundation. I'm like, no.
Oh, no worries. No, you said it great. So
Right.
at Founder Fuego, we actually started with a newsletter. So that's part of our story, is that we just wanted to show the voices of like underestimated founders, so that sparked an ability for us to grow into more of like an ecosystem, and then supporting entrepreneurs more directly. But what's beautiful is that anybody can start a newsletter, on write an article on LinkedIn. Like, there's different ways to express yourself. So I just wanted to also say that, yeah, 100%, you can really find your medium that works for you.
I'm so glad you brought that up too, about the newsletter and articles, because that's the part that I'm the least comfortable with. But guess what? With those articles, I realized I can tell a little bit more of the story than I did on the post. And for those people in my audience that enjoy reading more than watching videos, I realized that there's a completely different audience, and it is reaching them. And so I've started doing video interviews. I'll real post about it, and then I'll write an article about it. That way I'm hitting different people with the story. And I think that's important to realize. We all learn differently. Some are visual, some are more, auditory, some like to read. So your audience is not a one size fits all, you all, and that's important for you to remember when you're storytelling, is provide different options. That's why people like books that were made into movies. That's a huge thing. I was a comic book nerd. I read comic books all my life growing up. Now there's all these Marvel movies. I'm in heaven right now. So think about how that resonates. All right, let's move on to our next speaker, Gregory. Thank you so much for being patient. Please, and for those of you in the audience, we have about 10 minutes left, so feel free to join us up. I'll put the link again in the comments. But Gregory, unmike and share your thoughts about the subject. Over to you.
You just answered my first question. If you have a hard stop, basically. So I'll try to be quick, as orderly as fashioned. I kind of like the comment that Martha said 16 minutes ago, plus or minus 5 or 10 minutes. Quote, a lot of it depends on the person's comfort level and how they are able to express themselves when people feel safe, supported, and heard their stories come alive. If Felipe or Mac or Joel wants to put that comment up for people to view, go right, be my guest in regards to that nature, because I try to tell my story in the local Winnipeg market in terms of my disability, and I get basically, I will say, the pseudo opposite type of response or feedback from that's totally opposite from Joel in regards to my story in terms of my neurodiverseness and my disability. And it sometimes be a mental health draining that the other side will not hear me out in regards to what I need to be supported and treated and respected as an individual. That it really, I will say, makes my head go around and my head shake in terms of the lack of emotional intelligence leadership in regards to, I will say, in terms of seeing where I'm coming from, all that type of stuff in regards to my story that I want to tell, but is being basically, I will say, I'll use a tech term here, shadow banned, or basically wall gardened in terms of getting it to the quote unquote hiring managers and hiring business people and stuff. So that's why I will say that I will say, if we have a comment of the of this live audio event, I would basically support what Martha said in regards to that comment. In regards to a comment in reply to somebody else on this on this live audio event and stuff. So that's my 2 cents, and that's how I view this topic at large. So thank you.
Gregory, first of all, thank you for coming up here again. As always, you've been a longtime friend of the show, and I always appreciate you. I want to share with you something that someone shared with me. And it helped me because, and this helped me not just in storytelling. It helped me with dealing with my CEOs and my managers and supervisors. I was trying to make a point. I felt confident. I did research. I knew it was a good idea that would work, and I wasn't being heard. And I felt like a broken record. I felt like I was not being valued, that my voice was not being heard by my superiors. And then someone told me, why do you keep on doing the same thing? And I said, because it's important. Like, no, I'm not saying change what you're doing. Why are you doing the same thing? Change it up. And so my example of my point to my CEO about emotional intelligence, how it's important in the workplace, he needs to value it, and he thought it was fluff. He didn't care. It was stupid. Stop talking about it. It's we don't need emotions in the workplace. And instead of keep on trying to beat a dead horse, I went and I found articles of CEOs that he respected, very well known in the public, and some that only he knew because they weren't as public, that were speaking about the importance of emotional intelligence in the workplace. Now, I didn't go to him and say, look what I found. You're wrong. No, I quietly put it on his desk. While he wasn't there, left it there and waited. 3 weeks later, we were in a training session, and he was talking to my trainer, and he's like, well, are you going to talk to the managers about, how to do this, this, and this? And it was references to the article on emotional intelligence. So I knew he read it. He never admitted it to me. He never went out to me. The reason I'm sharing that to you is sometimes when we hit that brick wall, we got to go over it. We got to go under it. We got to go around it. I know that with my kids, my voice sometimes doesn't matter how good the idea or how right I am, doesn't mean crap because it's my voice. But the moment my brother says it to them, oh, Uncle Bob said it, must be true. That's great. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is I don't want you to feel defeated. You're fighting a great cause. Just try maybe different approaches, different tools. Listen to the audience you're trying to talk to, and think about what are they receptive to? Their communication style. Are they receptive to people talking to them, or are they more receptive about reading information and absorbing it that way? So I think there's ways, because I don't want you to give up on your mission. Your mission is important. Telling the story the way you were telling it, you just need to tweak it, sounds like. Because if you're hitting that brick wall, there's something about the way you're telling the story that's not resonating. And so instead of giving up on it, just change it up. Change it up and look at different ways. So I wanted to share that real quickly. I think it's important because I think you're not alone. A lot of people are experiencing the same thing. All right, we got 3 minutes, and Nick is in the back, and I'm going to give it to Mac real quick to share his thoughts. I know he came on camera. So Mac, over to you. You're on mute, Mac. You went almost the whole show without muting yourself. You did so well.
I thought nobody found that. You caught me out in that, but thanks, Felipe. But yeah, a few things, Gregory, just with regards to, I guess, context, because what Felipe mentioned there is so important. Is you didn't quite go into enough detail there, Felipe, about the importance of finding why it's important to them. Like Felipe did, where he put those articles. What he did, he kind of just glossed over. I took these articles of people that influenced him and just put it on his desk. That is huge with regards to understanding, like, what's in it for them. It's the old saying, what's in it for them, what's their why. So to give you an example, I worked with this large corporation where I knew that if I took them paperless and got their sales team onto a digital format of being able to not only present to the client, but also connected to all the internal systems of this large corporation, so that the salespeople didn't have to do so much work. And I was pounding away about this for years. And the problem was I hadn't focused on their why. And my why was important because it was important to the salespeople, but it wasn't important to the investors and the senior executives from a bottom line perspective, because they just kind of went, well, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But the reality was, I also saw the flip side of, from an HR and from a health and safety perspective, all the additional work these guys were doing, and they were falling asleep behind the wheel, and they weren't getting to be as effective as they want, which means growth was impact. And once I touched on the health and safety side, because they'd recently had this issue where somebody, unfortunately, there was a fatality in this large corporate, because they hadn't touched on the health and safety side, all of a sudden they wanted to that, like, it needed to happen today, the impact and the integrations that I want to work on, because now they got what was in it for them. And that's so important. But at the same time, I also want to focus on the fact that your audience, a lot of the time we might have the perfect solution, but if we keep telling the wrong audience about it, doesn't help. So has anybody ever heard of a guy called Sixto Rodriguez? Okay. And I find this fascinating because, as an example, I would think that people that firstly speak Spanish would have, like, they would know straight away. But the reality is most people don't know who this guy is.
What was his first name?
But Sixto, so Sixto Rodriguez.
All right. And just because we're Latinos, we don't all know each other.
No, I know that. But here's the thing.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I could not.
I love it. But here's the thing. This guy is somebody who was a hard-working man. He loved playing music, and he'd written all these songs. And yet, at the end of every day, he would go back to his rundown apartment, make a little fire out of a metal drum, and sit around with his family. And he was really, really, living in poverty, thinking that nobody wanted to hear his story. Nobody was interested in his music. But for me, I'd heard the story of this man being told that he was on death row when he wrote all these songs, and then he was, that was the end of his life, and his music had taken over in South Africa and several other countries massively. But everybody had thought that he was dead. And the reality was he was still living, working his 12-hour shifts in the US, and nobody had heard about him because his own agent was making loads of money, because this guy was outside of the US. Nobody had heard of him. So he thought, well, I'm making lots of money, but the artist is not seeing any coverage in the US, so he's never going to know that he is so famous, until somebody phoned him, try to find this guy, and ended up speaking to what they thought was a family member to try and tell the guy's story. And she was like, got a phone call from this guy who was interested in telling the story. And she was like, well, do you want to speak to my dad? And he was like, what do you mean, speak to your dad? And he was like, well, he's right here, you can talk to him. And she was like, what the hell? And he has written some of the most amazing music. I'm not going to go further into it. Go and look him up. But he was telling his story to a crowd who weren't interested, who just didn't resonate with his story. But when you find your audience, so don't give up on your story. Make sure that you understand, who is my story for? Once you know who your story is for, the people will come and you will have an impact, even if you make a change in one person's life. That's me done. Over to you, Felipe.
Well said. And I will say that I think that it's something that is important for people to remember that. I mean, I'm glad that he was still alive. I'm glad that the girl's like, oh yeah, I'm a psychic, I can talk to my father, so but and shame on that person for taking advantage of him. And I will say again, you gotta find the audience. You gotta make sure. You all know I do the Workplace Wellness Hour with Sumana and Ashley. One show we said, let's do HR analytics. I really should have thought about my audience, because nobody showed up except for like 2 people, because Nobody likes HR. I barely like HR analytics. So why is my audience going to like it? So that's important. All right. We are a little bit over time, but Nick, who likes to publish storytelling, came up, and I thought we'll give her a minute, last minute. Over to you, Nick.
Nick likes to come up at the last minute, apparently. She does this every weekend. So, hello to everyone on stage and in the audience, and I do apologize. The plan was not to come up today. You can see the mess in my kitchen because I'm cooking, and the boo is downstairs doing what he was doing, relocating heating vents, mind you. And so I ran down and I said, can you stop drilling for 10 minutes? I really would like to get on stage. And I ran out the front door, I put my shades on, and I go on my phone, and then it tells me some nonsense or the other about the camera. And so I run back to the laptop. So you don't know what I've gone through to get in here. That being said, I thought it would be extremely counterproductive to not get up here and chime in, given what I do for a living. So I was hearing a lot of questions, and I want to share. Everybody does have a story to tell. Everybody is not capable of expressing themselves, whether verbally, in person, written, or even in this format, right? It's nerve-wracking. So some of the things you can do, if you go into a live show like this, and you are familiar with the people on stage and the people in the audience, and you have a certain degree of comfort there, get up on stage, not on camera, and share just an anecdote, a little piece, geared towards the theme of the show. Even write it down, I did, little notes, and say, I'm going to share just this. I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to get off stage. That can help. And then the other thing that I started but had to stop due to time constraints is something called Intention to Ink. Joining an accountability writing class can help. And it doesn't mean that you're writing a book or anything like that. It just means join it, start writing, and at the end I say, would you like to share? You don't have to share. That's the thing. But it gets you into the habit of writing your own story. And you would be surprised how once you start to write it, your comfort level is going to keep growing with it. So I just wanted to touch one more thing, which was, I think we were talking about storytelling and business. So your story may not necessarily resonate with the type of business you're in. So you're wondering, well, how can I incorporate my story so that I bring in the audience, because I'm touching on the personal sides of me, right? Part of what I do in my marketing as a publisher is, for example, the most recent author I had, he did a book called Piece by Piece. I forgot, my blended experience of something like that. But the whole point was, I'm twice married and I am a step parent. This is my opportunity to market his book from the viewpoint that this is an experience I have. So you can take pieces of your story and curate it to what it is that you are marketing as your service. I'm doing a transformational kitchen cookbook. I love to cook. I put a picture of myself up with my food and said, hey, I'm doing a cookbook on. So you'd be surprised. Go through the pictures on your phone. You will start seeing pictures on there that are to certain things. And there is a way to tie it into your business. There always is. If you're not sure and you have an idea, DM me. DM me one picture and tell me what you do in your business. I will help you write that post so that it is curated for your business and to bring you in personally. Thank you, Felipe. I'm sorry. I'm like gone way overboard here. And I got all serious too.
It was a good minute, but it was a long minute. All right. Next time, come up earlier. You should know better. I'm going to start playing closing time every time you come up now. Closing time. No, all right. So, listen, everyone, thank you so much for being up here. I just saw Felipe, the Marvel fan. What? I do love Marvel, so I don't know what that was about. But I hope everyone had some good takeaways today. At the end of the day, go and take these last tips here. I'll share them up here on the screen again. And remember, in your story, are you missing a component of your story? And if you are, go back and revisit it and try it out and see if it works better. We tend to want to make it about us, and the story is already about you. Tell it for other people. And I hope that resonates with you. Thank you. Shout out to everyone who joined us. It was, great group here in the conversation. William Rochelle, love that you are on here. Love that you're on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And if you all wouldn't mind, by all means, subscribe to the YouTube channel here, because I do have a Social Saturday Chat playlist there that I'm trying to build whenever we do a show here. And I want to encourage people to follow us on LinkedIn. If you're not following the Social Saturday Chat on LinkedIn, give us a follow there and make sure that you hit that little bell in the top right-hand corner so you get notified of all the events we do every Saturday, but also the events the other co-hosts do. And also check out your favorite podcast check out our past episodes that we've done and see some of the great guests that we've interviewed, the topics we've tackled, or the phenomenal networking events. And I do want to thank all the wonderful people that were in here. From Stephen Ang, it was so great to see you here, my friend. Hope to see you more again now that you're back, hopefully. Maria, thank you for being here. Kenny, Melissa Houston, Sharik, Jay Pasqua, and everyone else Meryl Cass, Tom Cullen, everyone that joined us, thank you. We appreciate it. If we have not gotten back to your comments, we will in the chat. And with that, we're going to go around the room real quick with our co-hosts and talk about what we have coming up. I think Martha had to jump off real quick, but we will. Oh, wait, there she is. I'm sorry. So let's go around the room and share about last thoughts and what we have coming up. Martha, let's start with you, my friend.
Yeah, I thought you forgot about me, Felipe.
I thought you left. I was in the room and I saw you there.
Yeah, I'm on my phone and I'm looking at the comments on my computer. There's some really good comments. Thank you, friends. I'm trying to reply. I must say, 'cause, they go fast. They go fast. Um, some of the things that stood out from today's conversation is I know I read Jay. He had wrote something about cartoons, right? And it just kind of brought me back in time. Just reading that when we would watch cartoons, and some of them didn't even say anything, but just the visual effects. And so it's like life, if you go and people watch, you just kind of sit and just people watch and just really just pay attention and just enjoy that moment. So I don't have anything coming up. I will be back here next Saturday. It was such a pleasure to be here with everyone, and I'm trying my best to reply in the comments to everybody. So just know I'm going to do my best. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, Martha. Joel, any last thoughts or anything you have coming up?
Apart from next week's Social Saturday, I haven't got anything else coming up this week. No, that's the week after. I'm going to the vets now. And I will see you all next Saturday. Mac.
I'm assuming you just passed the baton to me. Amazing. Well, firstly, thank you all for joining this conversation. It was amazing, and just dropping your comments and your questions, or your favorite storytellers. We really want to connect with more storytellers here on this platform, especially those that are great with visual storytelling. That would be pretty cool. But for me this week, one of the things that's coming up, which so many people are battling, is the challenge of using AI in the workplace. And I know Felipe has been, speaking about this for ages, and I'm rather looking forward to hosting two speakers. So I'm going to be hiding in the background, but I'm hosting two speakers on Tuesday, 3 to 4 p.m. UK time. And they're talking everything HR that leaders want to know about AI. There's some great questions that have already been asked. So go to my profile, see my featured section, go in there and ask. Make sure that you ask soon, because that way during the live, they can answer your questions as well. But to give you an idea of the background of the two individuals that will be I'll be hosting is, they've got backgrounds working for companies like Reuters, Facebook, Google, and loads of other large organizations where, a lot of these organizations are really on the forefront of pushing through to adopting AI in the workplace. And we all know there's that fine balance between AI and that human approach where it's needed. So if you've got any questions or comments, please go and drop them in there so we can air those questions and have them answered. That's me done. Have an incredible week. I look forward to seeing you all next Saturday. Make sure you're following our Social Saturday Chat page for more. Felipe, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mac. And I do hope everyone does follow us. If you're not following us, don't forget to do that. As far as what I have coming up, well, actually, last thoughts for this is, storytelling is a skill. So take your time and develop it. It's something that over time, I know that all of us here on stage have developed our skills. But like Max said, we're looking for people that really have honed their skills. And yes, Richard, I saw you turn on your camera and put your thumbs up. So I have you on my list. But it's one of those things where don't beat yourself up about it. Just practice and keep on improving, and you'll start seeing what resonates and what doesn't, and just kind of trial and error and work your way through it. All right. So again, hope you found these valuable. The tips are here on the screen. They are also recorded on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, of course. So other than that, tomorrow I do have Careers, Chaos, and Coaching with Melissa Houston at 11 a.m. Eastern, and here from my page. And we will be talking about how to budget for the holidays now that we're here, how to save, how to find some deals, some tricks and tips that can help you save money. So we're going to be sharing a number of those things. Feel free to join us. And we'll be here next Saturday with this amazing crew, which will be on the Social Saturday Chat page. So again, another reason for you to follow us. And is next week, no, it's not networking, but we will have networking 2 weeks from now. Next week will be a different topic. So don't forget to join us, and thank you to everyone who came along, and we will see you next Saturday. Stick around for the closing song, everyone. You can laugh at it. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you in a week. Bye.
Hey, yo, it's Saturday, it's the weekend, time to party.